So let me explain what's going to be happening.
You can answer this question on my phone.
And show you how it's going to work. Okay, so you have the pro attorneys are here, the con attorneys are here. These are all the witnesses. They will call you up when they want you to come up and speak. If you're a witness, you're going to come over here to our lovely witness stand. You're going to put your little nameplate in front so we know who's talking. There's a stool back here. You sit down, and the lawyer is going to ask you some questions. Hopefully they told you what questions they're going to be. You give your answer, whatever answer that is. Me playing your role. The other side, so if the pro attorney calls you up and asks you some questions, they're done asking their questions of you. The con attorney, the policymakers will ask if they want to cross-examine you. If it was a con attorney, they'll come up and they'll ask you some questions based on the answers you just gave. Answer them to the best of your ability. You're not going to know what questions they're asking you. So you just have to pretend, just stay in your role. And if you don't know the answer, just say, I don't know that. But I know this is what it does for me. Okay? Or this is why I feel that way. Alright? You just got to play the role, alright?
What if we don't know,
You know the role, you know what's going on. Alright? The policymakers are writing policy for the U.S. in terms of whether or not we keep genetically modified food in our food supply. Okay? And they can ask for clarification of an answer. So if they like your answer or they need more information, they'll say, can you explain that? Or can you say more about that? Okay? So, do not say for everybody because I'll make you write a 10-page paper. Single space. Alright? So policymakers are here, pro side here, con side here. Everybody clear on what needs to happen? You saw the grading rubric. You're graded on how well do you play your role. Okay, so are you in the role? I can go back and look at the tape and see who's babbling or not.
Wait, you're recording right now?
Yeah.
He's only recording the front, so you can.
Man. So. Alright, so you're graded on basically how well do you know your role. Can I see that you did some research and you know what you're talking about? How well do you stay in your role? Kevin? Eye contact. When you're on the witness stand, are you making eye contact? Are you speaking clearly so people can hear you? You don't want me on. Nobody's gonna hear you. It's a role, alright? You're all actors today. Yeah. I know you're great ones. So
I know.
Right? Okay.
So are you.
Everybody ready?
No.
Oh well, ready or not.
2 minutes.
So if you so here's the procedure. I gave you this like last week or the week before. The pro side is going to come up and they're going to stand right here and they can address, you can turn and address people. You need to give a 3 to 5 minute opening statement. I'll time you. Okay. Then you can call up your witnesses. Okay, 7 to 10 witnesses. Okay. So you do that. If you want to cross-examine, they're going to ask you if you'd like to cross-examine. You can or can't. After every witness. You don't have to, but you can if you want to. Then, after the pro side makes their case, the con side will stand up and give a 3 to 5 minute opening statement. It states their position and what they're for. And then they will call up their witnesses. They can also call you up again. So if you've already been up here, they might call you up again. Okay? At the conclusion, once everybody's done, okay, the pro side will give their closing argument. So they'll stand up and say, based on everything that's presented, blah, 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 blah. Con side will do the same thing. And then that's it. The policymakers go back and decide what they feel. Okay, how do they think who won the trial? Alright, everybody clear on that?
Yes.
There were more chairs on the side. They wanted to see your smiling face right in front of them. Okay. Everybody clear on what's happening? You guys ready to open?
No!
We're gonna open.
He wants to fail.
Alright, so the pro side, you're up. Opening statement.
Alright.
Do not alright. Who gave Angel a
Bible? We need a Bible. We need a Bible.
That's so true. We need a Bible.
You know what you have that's better
I have
than
a
that?
Bible in my app.
We have an environmental science
No,
textbook.
bring the book, the APES book.
We are bringing the APES book.
Yeah, bring it. Hold on, may I have some water?
Get water.
We
Get
need
your cups,
water.
whatever.
There's a couple ideas.
We swear you're saying the truth and nothing but the truth.
Okay, one of you has to act as the bailiff.
Do you water?
On the APES book.
Thank you, Bob.
Repeat after me.
Alright. Are you guys finally ready?
Wait, what are we gonna say?
Okay. So when they call up a witness, the witness will come up.
It's gonna be like,
This is an equal opportunity.
repeat after me.
So you can just one of you is gonna be the bailiff. Repeat after me. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me, apes. Okay? There you go. Sit down, right? And you're done.
Wait,
Okay?
after we call out the witness, we call out the witness.
The bailiff will swear and then one of them will swear. It's pretty good, right?
I like that, Bob.
Alright. You guys, pro side, you ready? You're open statement. Let's go. 3 to 5 minutes. And don't make it 3 to 5 minutes.
3 to 5 minutes. What I told you.
You need those kind of lyrics, right?
You go over there. Walk there.
You don't have to stay there.
Walk back and forth. Walk back and forth.
You're gonna make a whole one.
Are we ready, sir?
Today, my clients, those people, are put to trial for accusations of enhanced use of genetically modified foods and the defects it brings, and my pro-attorneys and I are here to defend them in this case. Under the EPA, United States Environmental Protection Agency, they declare that genetically modified foods are used in order to increase production of growing crops, mainly along with other benefits. As properly stated by the EPA, they said, to date, no adverse health effects attributed to the genetically engineered foods have been documented in human population. Based off this, genetic modified foods are continuing to be made today, and no adverse health effects have attributed since then. We will be defending our clients to whatever following charges may be regarded, and will do best in protecting our claim that genetically modified foods are involuntary to the false accusations made today. Let me say that while genetic modified foods have been a controversial issue, we wouldn't have the high-speedy production of foods we have today. It has helped our country grow into a more efficient state of production of surplus, and has still been increasingly controversial over the past couple of years. Over the years, people have been anxiously knowing if genetic modified foods bring defects, and I can assure you that we are seeking to defend against all claims on the topic, and humbly take in account with whatever questions you may ask us in the utmost professional way. We are asking that you, however, take into consideration of the following things. Number one, genetic modified foods help food taste better and provide higher quality standards than traditional non-genetically modified foods. Number two, genetic modified foods help farmers save time and money. Number three, it is safe for human consumption. Number four, it brings nutrients to countries that don't have nutritional soil to grow food stock. Number five, it reduces the use of pesticides and chemicals. And number six, solves malnutrition and world hunger. That would be all. And for my first witness, I'd like to call up America.
Repeat after me. I swear to say nothing but the truth. Or help me.
So, as I agricultural minister from a developing country. How has genetic modified foods helped you and your country?
Well, malnutrition is a great problem because people often have to rely on a single staple, such as rice, that is on its own doesn't supply sufficient nutrients. Food sciences hope to genetically modify crops to add vitamins and minerals, and one of the most promising is golden rice, which can stimulate our bodies to generate vitamin A. In developing countries like mine, vitamin A deficiency kills 2 million children each year, and another 500,000 become permanently blind. Traditional vaccines are costly to manufacture and require specialized storage not always available in developing countries. Breedable vaccines will be easier to ship, store, and administer. The benefits of biotechnology are many and include providing resistance to crop pests to improve production and reduce chemical pesticide usage, thereby making major improvements in both food quality and nutrition.
Where would you be without genetic modified foods?
It's beneficial because my country has lost too many of its people because of lack of food and malnutrition. Therefore, we have to take action, hopefully making a good investment in genetically modified food, because that's what's best for my country. We have way too many people not eating than other developed countries who have enough. It's gonna feed them, and that's all food wants.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how important are genetically modified foods for your developing country and why?
10, because if there's not genetically modified food, it's just gonna keep increasing people in the country in the die.
We wouldn't want anyone to die.
No.
Next question. Alright, Fabio.
Would you guys like to?
That's good.
They're gonna cross the line.
Okay.
So you have to sit.
So, based on the information you've told us, you said that it would be beneficial to your country, and let's say, what was it, third world country, developing country, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you say that genetically modified food is a bit expensive for your entire country to be fed on?
It can be, but I really don't want my country, my people to die. I really want them to, keep going.
Yes, I suppose, yes. Well, but if you really think about it, when you have such a high standard of trying to get genetically modified food, that will put your country in debt. And in debt means already not enough people eating. So if you already have not enough people eating, and then you're also in debt, that's more people already not eating, is genetically modified foods really beneficial to your developing country?
I would like to be like other countries with plenty of food for our people. We need every tool at our disposal to achieve this, including biotechnology, which will allow us to grow things without costly chemicals and irrigation systems that we cannot afford. We do not want to be dependent on aid or redistribution, but we want to be in control of our own destiny.
Next witness, I like to call Emily.
Repeat after me. You swear to say nothing but the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you apes. I swear. That's what you say. I swear to say the truth and nothing but the truth.
What things can you say about genetically modified foods?
What I can say about genetic modified food is that it has better food, quality, has better taste, and making crops disease resistant. So there's a higher yield and more efficient production, and also allows the farmers to skip the steps into production process, so that it'll take less time to deliver food to third world countries. And some of the foods are modified to obtain additional vitamins and minerals that some of the non-genetic modified foods don't have. With the population that is with population that is at 7 billion people currently right now, and with the third world country without having like sort of like food where like they could depend based on their own country. Instead, like they also have to ask for help in our country. So with this, like it'll help bring more food, bring more food, so that like it'll take less time.
In what ways did genetically modified foods serve you in other countries?
With 13 million people in Southern Africa in urgent need of food assistance in the country, with this, it'll allow the food to be delivered over there in a shorter time, where like they don't have to depend like on other countries. Like yeah.
Have you have people you encountered around the world been heavily influenced by genetic modified foods, or and which people specifically?
The specific people is people in Africa. It's because like with this genetic modified food, the higher production of food, and the farmers don't have to rely on like the use of water, so it'll help them maintain the food around the country.
Thank you, Krishna.
Would you like to cross-examine me?
Next up, I like to call fairness. Oh,
Bailiff, Bible.
as an environmentalist, are you aware of the pros of genetic modified foods?
No, but I am aware of the cons.
Can you say some of those cons?
Cons, such an example, companies like yours have a history of toxic contamination and deceiving the public, and you sue small farmers.
Why do you disregard GMFs?
GMS. Because they reduce the genetic diversity, and they are made of massive amounts of pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides.
Can you please specify exactly what foods or vegetables or anything is exactly?
Potatoes, tomatoes, vegetables.
In what alternative ways would you help solve the problems already solved by GMFs?
May you repeat the question?
In what alternative ways would you help solve the problems already solved by GMFs?
I do not have that answer for you, sir.
Disappointing. How will this be proven effective? Oh, never mind. Skip that question. How will the future be better without GMFs?
Future will be better because these things are poisonous and should not be eaten or allowed to run off in our water supply, or they will contaminate. Because once they get into our digestive system, bacteria passes through the digestive system, which can lead to diseases, illnesses, or even grave deaths.
Okay. Would you like to cross-examine me?
Alright, so I would like to call up Francisco up to the witness stand.
I don't do it.
Like what?
You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth in the name of APES.
So, from what I understand, you are a Monsanto spokesperson, right?
Yes, sir.
And you are where do you stand on this? Do you support GMFs?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So tell me how Monsanto has contributed to the further research of the benefits of GMFs and how that research has actually benefited benefited other people.
Order in the court.
Monsanto has created a strain of soybeans genetically modified to be not affected by their herbicide products, Roundup. A farmer grows soybeans which then only require one application of weed killer instead of multiple applications, reducing production costs and limiting the dangers of agricultural waste and runoff.
So as you guys clearly heard, GMFs like that crops that have some form of a GMO can actually reduce the amount of pesticides and herbicides used on crops, and that can help help the environment in many ways. One of which is that it'll reduce the amount of residue that can possibly contaminate bodies of water such as rivers and streams, and that's one of the ways it can benefit the environment. Another way is that crops containing some form of GMO can also be resistant to extreme weather, and therefore farmers won't have to worry much about losing their entire harvest and being ruined financially for an entire season. So, that's it.
Would you like to cross-examine?
We will. Okay. So, you are head of the Monsanto spokesperson, right?
Yes.
Are you aware that Monsanto has actually been in a lawsuit suing North American farmers?
Yes, I am aware.
Can you please explain on the trial courts?
I don't want to speak of private.
Right. Okay, at least do you know the reason why you're suing?
I think I do.
What is that reason?
I don't know yet.
Okay, so I'll make it straight. You are not aware of the trial that has been going on in your company, yet you are trying to inform all these people the fact that you know a lot about GMO. Is that okay? All right. So to recap, he doesn't know what's going on in his own company, yet he's trying to inform you guys on GMFs. Sounds pretty good. I don't know. Let's see.
Oh. Just even if this really applied to Monsanto, how can an attorney be defending the side that is against using GMFs or GMOs when she has consumed 2 McNuggets which contains some form of GMO.
Okay. Or
I am so outside.
you can ignore the outburst from the pro side.
I will.
Ignore that comment, please.
Okay.
You
You may
can't.
proceed.
Hey,
That was old.
Yeah, someone's
Yes.
favorite word.
That was a 4.
Next witness.
So I call Jennifer to the stand, and she is an environmentalist.
I see. You swear to say the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you apes.
So, what comes to your mind when you hear about an agricultural practice that results in major damage to the environment?
Genetically modified food. Basically, it's new viruses which are created, which can make people suffer allergic reactions to it, and there might not be a cure, so you don't really know where it's coming from. So,
Can you clarify that?
there could be like stuff that are put into like vegetables and stuff, so you don't really know what is being put into them. So you could
Can
get
you clarify what stuff can be?
put into like the vegetables.
Yes, but you're saying stuff as no one really knows what stuff can be. It can be like steroids or like
Yeah,
drugs
that's the thing. You don't know what's being put into the food.
So, what I actually think about when I hear a harmful agricultural practice is raising farm animals such as cattle and pigs in inhumane and just filthy conditions, because what that causes a lot more problems for the environment. And do you know why it causes more problems for the environment?
No, I am not.
Raising farm animals in mass proportions can obviously, you need food to feed the animals, and that extra food can actually create some form of runoff. It can actually degrade the topsoil, and also these animals being raised in these crowded conditions can create bacteria which can mutate in order for them to be harmful to humans, and it can also, obviously, the residue from the farm animals can spill into rivers or streams, and it causes all sorts of other harmful effects for the environment, and it can also result in a large proportion, the loss of a major part of the entire food supply of the world. What do you have to say about that?
They should just be gone.
Are you, final question. Are you informed of the many benefits from genetically modified food?
No, I am just aware about what it does to the environment, and what it's doing to the environment is not okay.
Okay.
Would you like to cross-examine the witness? You may proceed.
You're on.
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to called highly resistant.
You swear to say the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you apes.
I do, I swear.
Oh, well, what?
How exactly do GMFs put the health of animals at risk?
Well, it's actually extremely unhealthy for the animals because when they are changed to grow larger amounts of meat, their bodies literally cannot handle it. So there is internal damage to organs and other bodily functions, which promotes unhealthy growth of the animal, which not only means suffering for the animal, but also, well, basically,
Do you think there's other industries that are actually much more harmful to animals? And not only other industries, but how about other farming practices such as raising farming animals in crowded conditions? What do you think about those?
yeah, I clearly do not promote those either, or I'm an animal rights activist. But if GMOs were allowed, this would encourage industries to continue with other unhealthy practices. I mean, it's not like they just because the animals have GMOs, they would be changing their conditions. So entirely, I do not agree with a lot of the practices in this industry.
So, are you aware of benefits that are brought along with the development of GMFs?
Not entirely, but if animals were able to, like for example, like free range, then they would grow up a lot healthier and in turn be healthier for us, even without GMOs.
Would you like to pass it to the next? And then proceed.
I'd like to call up Jasmine, who's a GMF researcher.
Do you swear to say the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you apes?
How's it going, Jasmine?
Pretty good.
You doing good?
Yeah.
So, what is a GMF researcher?
Well, GMF stands for genetically modified foods. It's just foods that are produced from organisms that have specific changes introduced into their DNA using the methods of genetic engineering.
Okay. Now, what do you think about if we were to take out GMF out of food? Like, what would you think about that?
I don't think that would be such a good idea, especially the benefits it has, such as the foods are processed quicker, and especially for the growing population.
Okay. Now, do you think this will have a negative impact if we were like stop using this stuff on people? Probably. Okay. I'll take that. Now, are you in favor for like using GMF?
Probably no, not that much, but
Okay. Too dark. Next person I'll call up is Kara. Best friend.
Do you swear to tell the
truth and nothing but the truth, so help you apes.
How's it going? Alright. So what do you do for a living?
I am a large scale farmer.
You go get your paper. We'll cut that out. Don't worry.
I'm a large scale farmer and I cultivate GMFs.
Okay. So now why are you in favor for GMFs?
I'm in favor because since I cultivate in such a harsh climate, GMFs allow me to create a larger yield and thus more food and more profit.
Alright. Now, if you were to outlaw the usage of GMFs, how would this hurt your business?
This would hurt my business because it would make it would create more damage to my crops and thus I would be able to produce less. This would also hurt the economy around it and probably the number of people going hungry in the country.
Okay. Alright. Thank you.
Okay. So, large scale farmer. So you are aware that these GMFs are supposedly to like kill off all pests and vermin off your.
I'm aware of this.
Yes. Okay. Good. How would your reaction be if, let's say, all of the pests were done, like they're extinct? What would your reaction be?
This is highly unlikely.
But if it did,
this would probably damage the ecosystem around my farm.
So you wouldn't be happy that there's no eating your crops?
Well, I would be pleased that there wouldn't be anything attacking my crops, but for the fact of the area around me, which I use,
okay.
would not be there.
So let's go back to your reaction. What about overproduction? Let's say you're growing your crops and you have lots of food going on, and let's say you want 100 pieces of corn a month, but instead you're like overpopulate to 1,000 pieces of corn. That wouldn't make you really happy, right? Because then you'll have a lot of food that all of your other, competitors are also having a lot of food. So they're trying to sell it, but you want to compete, so you start lowering your prices. But you're still not selling as much. Your topsoil starts getting all loose, like extremely loose. And I don't know about, does it seem really familiar to you? I don't know, I feel like the Dust Bowl is coming back to me. Yeah, I feel familiar. So how would your reaction be to that?
The fact that prices would be lowering would be a negative effect. However, the fact that I would have more would mean that since I'm selling it for less, I'd probably still be generating around the same overall revenue because I would be selling more, but each one would be for less.
You'd think that, but then what about the other competitors? What about the other farmer next door that's growing the exact same amount of corn? Or the other neighbor across the street that's selling the amount of strawberries too. But besides that, did you know that these genetically modified foods actually make super weeds? They make super weeds. They get the resistance towards the food and they can't kill.
Yes, they occasionally do create super weeds, but the crossbreeding is less of a problem because there are less species to crossbreed with, and I feel like this is a small problem in comparison to my predicament if I was to farm with the traditional seeds due to the harsh climate around.
I'm sorry, can you clarify what exactly is a superweed or
A
how it is made?
A superweed, when it's processed by genetically modified foods, actually is a weed that becomes resistant to many other killers. You see those things that you buy at Home Depot and you want to kill them? Yeah, they become resistant to that. They don't die.
Next person on my talk is Jacob, the CEO of Cattle.
Yes, Alright.
I got you.
Thank you, Mr. Escobar.
No problem.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth so help you apes?
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
You look good today.
I know.
Alright. Let me ask you this. Now, are you in favor of GMF? If so, like why? Why are you in favor?
Absolutely. I am in favor of GMF. If you guys don't know, I am the CEO of the cattle company, and I prioritize not only my farmers, the people growing crops, but the quality of each crop as well. And if we use GMOs, GMFs, we are producing myriad amounts of benefits, not only for the farmers, for my employees, but for everyone who consumes the products that we produce at our company. GMFs, many might say that, oh, they're not natural and they taste unnatural and they're not good for you. But I disagree, actually, because if we produce GMFs, scientists have gained so much knowledge that they have the ability to modify any aspect of a food and adapt that and optimize that so it is the best possible food for not only the workers but for people who consume it. And also, GMFs are very resistant to pests, and because their DNA structure can be biologically modified, and this will ultimately reduce environmental adverse impacts to the ecosystem around the farm, because we would be using less pesticides, because we wouldn't need the use of pesticides since the GMFs they're already strong enough to fight against pests. Also, this would be extremely economic, is very good for the economy, because if we don't need to invest in more pesticides, we are saving a ton of money because pesticides have been used greatly in farms. Additionally, the use of GMFs has a higher yield of crops, and this, as mentioned before by one of the farmers here as a witness, Miss Reynolds, sorry. It ultimately yields more crops, which could be sold and could improve the lives of the farmers because they would have a higher income due to the higher amount of crops they sold, and this could improve the lives of their family. For example, their children could get a better education, and the scope of the benefits is unlimited almost. And also, I could stop. You could ask me my next question.
Alright. Excuse me. Now, if we were to stop the usage of GMFs, like, will this affect your company and your workers?
This would have an incredible adverse consequence on all of my workers. As mentioned before,
Really?
yes. Would you like me to elaborate?
Please.
My pleasure. Well, as mentioned before, if we use GMFs, the farmers have an easier job, which ultimately improves their enjoyment of their job, which will ultimately affect the quality of the foods produced. And aside from the workers themselves, GMFs also have a ton of other benefits,
because they could be modified to be more nutritious, which would help pretty much everyone who consumes them. There would be an increased yield of foods, which would reduce starvation. I mean, if you think about it, if there's more crops could be sent over to less developed countries who are in need of food. I mean, and this would also reduce the price of the food, actually. If you have more of something, the price of it would go down. It's just how the economy works. And also, with the increased use of GMFs, there is an increase in regulation for GMFs as well, which would mean that they'll be safer for the consumers, because the more there are, the higher, for example, the EPA will place an emphasis on the quality of this and the safety of this, and they wouldn't allow unsafe GMFs to be consumed and put on the market for anybody to consume. Additionally, more research in GMFs, it results in more knowledge of the DNA structures and the structure of the crops themselves, and this could ultimately yield great benefits for the future of science, and the future of farm, and the future of pretty much the whole world.
So you like GMFs? So,
evidently, yes.
Alright. You like chicken nuggets?
Oh my god.
Yes.
They're pretty good, huh?
I would agree, especially when you dip them in ketchup.
I prefer barbecue sauce. That's my thing.
Okay.
Alright. Well, thank you.
Would you like to cross examine the witness?
Go for it.
We're just asking questions, alright? Calm down.
I'm just answering questions.
Okay. You said earlier that it's safer to eat, right?
What was that?
You said that genetically modified foods are safer to eat, right?
Yes.
Were you listening to what our environmentalist stated? That it kills off all of these, like that.
Which environmentalist?
This one right here.
Well, I would disagree. I believe his claims are a little bit factually uncluttered. Not. Well, can you repeat what he said actually? No, why not?
Relax,
I
alright?
am very relaxed.
Alright? All I have to ask is that, please, witness, answer the question. Yeah. Like, do you remember what he said?
Do you remember what he said?
Do you remember what he said?
I do not remember what he said because
Okay.
he was mumbling and.
Can we not?
I'm sorry. It's not my
Okay.
fault. I answered the question. I said no, I did not.
So what you're saying is that it's safer to eat and that it kills off all these viruses.
I am saying that because
Right.
If it's safer to eat, if we could modify the structure of the components that make up these crops, we could change it to however we want. We could optimize the crop itself to be as nutritious as possible and as resistant to pests as possible.
Okay. But would you not agree that you would want to get at least a little bit of viruses so we can build up our immune system? Because other than that, it'll be like the salmon in the river. Right?
Did you do any research?
I did. This is what I'm asking you. Would it be a good idea to cut off all the viruses? Because other than that, like, we won't be able to build any antibodies.
Well,
and we won't have a strong immune system. Is that right?
Scientists.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I would disagree partially.
Can you please elaborate on why you would disagree?
I would disagree because with the increased use of genetically modified foods, scientists would gain a huge scope of knowledge just by scrutinizing the structure of genetically modified foods and how they're made, how they're produced. And with this in mind, scientists could preemptively address your situation by perhaps building more or putting more substances in the genetically modified foods that can help our immune system to prevent against disease. But anyways, if if uh if the genetically modified foods aren't affected by the wait, what was your question? Your question seems very.
I'm saying
Very
that
wrong.
if you continue to like kill off all these viruses to make these safer to eat, will that not build up?
Killing off viruses.
You said earlier when I asked you a question,
I
you said
never
yeah.
said killed off viruses.
Can we play the tape?
Okay, look. There's
Okay,
two,
I'm
okay,
done
wait,
looking
wait,
for my
wait,
question.
wait,
Obviously,
wait.
we have realized.
She's done.
There's two types of.
I
okay,
am.
so you can.
Hold
I
on.
have.
Hold
I
on.
have-
Hold on, Jamie.
No,
Yes.
I have
We must
something.
continue.
You gave up your witness. It was her witness, and she said she's done. So now you step down.
Alright, hold on.
Wait.
Wait.
They might call him back up again later, and then you can copy
No, okay, hold on. Am I right to not say that?
Okay. Do you have another witness for the
Yeah.
And stay
Oh,
off.
we have an objection.
No objection.
Good.
Do you have another witness?
Next
No.
witness.
No, that's it. Jacob, you look really cute.
Water break.
Thank you.
Just like every other.
Yeah, we need water.
Good?
We're done.
Okay. Positive side, you may proceed.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vanessa Cardozo, and I am representing the opposing side for this trial. Me and my attorneys, including our witnesses, are here to prove everyone that genetically modified foods are harmful. You have already heard that the defense's side claiming that genetically modified food is beneficial to our health, earth, and economy. Although all the previously stated claims have been supported by facts and research, it does not necessarily mean that these beneficial uses are permanent. Genetically modified foods are biotech foods or foods derived from genetically modified organisms. Genetically modified organisms have had specific changes introduced into their DNA by genetic engineering techniques. Genetically modified organisms, as the name implies, are organisms such as plants and animals that have had their genetic characteristics modified for a purpose, either to make crops resistant to herbicides and pesticides, enabling farmers to spray crops to destroy pests without killing their crops in the process, to kill harmful insects so that insecticides are no longer needed, or to remain fresh on the shelves longer. If you look at the bigger picture, you'll realize that genetically modified food side effects prove otherwise. Not only harmful enough to reduce the larvae in monarch butterflies, yes, that means killing them. These genetic modified crops are almost a prime ingredient to creating harmful superbugs and superweeds. Now concerning human health, it seems a bit unorthodox that when foods injected with other vitamins can unintentionally introduce new allergens to already allergic children. Some other arguments that have come upon are unintended harm to other organisms there are some toxins in the corn that may cause some insects to perish. It is said that some of the plants in the corn are hazardous. As there is domination by only a few, there's ethical animal labeling. Not all countries use the proper labeling of genetically modified foods enforced. This allows to sell the genetically modified products as if they were natural, which is unethical according to some critics. The USA is an example of such a country. It also affects fertility and pregnancy. So all I ask is that you truly see what great consequences these little experiments can and will bring us in the end. You are practically ingesting a fake version of natural food sources. Thank you. Okay, so our first witness is Kiara.
You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Yeah.
So how does genetically modified food affect the baby in the future?
Well, I read that it can make them allergic to foods as they grow older. And it can also make them uh, susceptible to different viruses and bacteria.
Okay, and would you like to cross-examine the witness?
To be honest, I didn't really hear it. It was really quiet.
Okay, let me repeat the question.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
How does genetically modified food affect the baby in the future?
It can make them have serious allergic reactions to the foods, and it can make them susceptible to different bacteria and viruses.
Okay. And what are the benefits? What would the benefits be?
I'm not aware of any.
You're not aware of it? Okay. Thank you. You may proceed.
What?
She may proceed.
We want to cross-examine.
You
Oh, you want
to
to
cross-examine, didn't you?
No,
He said no.
But
I asked him.
no, the first I said I didn't hear.
So, why do you think that GMFs can cause birth defects? Or some form of allergic reaction on your baby? Anything harmful? Like, okay, how do you know that GMFs have a negative effect or can have a harmful effect on your baby?
Because there have been many research. There have been many experiments with that.
Can you name one?
Off the top of my head.
Next witness. Call up the mother of the kid with autism.
For the next officer to say the truth and nothing but the truth to help you APES.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did genetically modified food affect your child?
Well, I took my child was consuming lots of genetically modified food, and I first noticed a huge improvement when I took my son off of gluten, which is a protein in wheat and other grains, and casein, which is a protein in milk. Then I started converting his diet to organic, and once we moved to organics, I really believe that it helped him. It's like another layer was removed that prevented him from really being interested in other children and connecting with other children and just people in general. It made a huge difference, and in just 6 months, he has become much more social, much more caring. He's displayed so much more empathy and played with other children.
So you went from genetically modified food to organic food, right? Okay, so what is your overall opinion about genetically modified food?
They weren't helping my son in any way, and they were actually bad for him. So I don't think children with autism or children at all should be intaking any genetically modified food.
How much was he consuming?
We had like I think like with every meal we were giving him fruits and vegetables and such. So 3 times a day, yeah.
Thank you. Would you like to comment?
Do you actually have any evidence that GMFs were the cause of your child's form?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Okay. Do you have any actual evidence that GMFs were the cause of your child's child's autism?
Yeah, 'cause like, as soon as I took him off of eating genetically modified foods, like he's so much better, and like that was the only thing I changed.
Did you go to the doctors to see, to get some more formal testing done on him?
No. No, I didn't actually. I made a decision by myself.
Where is your child today?
He's in the back up there.
Are you sure
He looks like he's so
Excuse me.
Are you sure it just wasn't some form of phase that had nothing to do with GMOs?
Like I said, I took him off of GMFs and he was like chilling, so.
I have a question. If someone's asking a question, may we jump in and ask a question too? Not that team, but like on our own team. What?
Proceed, next witness.
I would like to call out Priscilla. She's an environmentalist.
You swear to say the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you
In your opinion, how do you think GMF impacts the environment?
Well, in my opinion, since I'm an environmentalist, I have a good and a bad. So I'm not like whether I'm in the good side, cause for me it's okay. An example of a tomato. You know how they put like chemicals in a tomato? They use like elephants. I rather not use like chemicals on vegetables, like animals and vegetables together. Because what if one day I decide to buy tomatoes and then I see a foot elephant growing on the tomato? So that would like be kind of awkward and weird. So I'm not whether on the good side or the bad side. I'm just like yeah. Yeah, in between.
Okay. Do you think it does any good benefits as a result of GMF?
Actually.
Would you would you want it to be would you want people to go more for GMF for the environment?
Why I'm like between the both of like I sometimes agree and sometimes don't agree with it. But
What about the animals?
well the animals like if we
How are animals affected about GMF?
well we should know. I didn't do a lot of research.
Would you like to cross-examine the witness?
Yes.
You may proceed.
Alright. Does GMFs help food countries suffering from extreme hunger?
Like I say previously I actually don't
No,
know.
okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I'm not dumb, okay? Alright. Would it farming excuse me. Would it farming crops with the assistance of pesticides help like be more harmful?
What are you trying to say?
That's like if you were to grow crops with pesticides with them, wouldn't that be more harmful to the crops?
Well,
What?
yeah, but still, I'm in between, so I can't decide to go in the good side or the bad side. Like, we just.
Alright. Thank you.
Next witness,
You wanna ask?
would like to call up Jocelyn to the stand, please.
No.
I just wanna say nothing but the truth.
Okay, so what's your stance on GMFs?
I'm against GMF.
Okay. What do GMFs, how do they impact the environment and the animals?
Well, there are two sides of GMF. There are positives and negatives, but overall there are more negatives than positives. For example, viruses in plants. There are more created between when GMF is used. Pollen from BT, for example, is in corn, and it has an adverse impact to monarch butterflies and larvae. And GMF also makes pests resistant to the killers.
Can you please elaborate on what GMFs do to the butterfly's larvae?
Okay. Well, the pollen is in the air. For example, springtime. You get allergies during the spring, and then it's in the air. So when the wind carries the BT gene from the corn, it goes to the plants and to the caterpillars or the larvae of monarch butterflies. So it is very harmful. So that's why there's a decrease in monarch larvae, butterflies, and all that.
So would you say that the GMFs actually make the larvae of the monarch butterflies sterile, as in no longer, alive?
Yes.
Nah, we're good.
Are we done? Who doesn't go good? What's your name?
Oh, seriously, you guys don't know your
Okay, I'll go to the stand.
I'm talking to
Go on up to the stand.
Witness.
We have you.
Do you grow?
What do you do?
Oh, what do you do?
I'm a small scale farmer.
Okay. Do you grow organic foods?
Can you clarify your answer, please?
Yes.
I heard you're having a salinization problem. Can you please clarify on that?
Okay.
Okay.
Are you aware that GMF creates super weeds? Are you for it or against it? Against? Against it? Why?
Because the GMF, GMF code that has been used is like people that don't actually affect their lives and affecting me.
How has that affected your farm?
For
Would you like to cross-examine the witness? You may proceed. Ex-witness.
Bathroom break.
We have one more person, hold on. We're calling another person back up to the stand.
Okay, from your part to call for the pregnant woman back.
Kevin next to my
Yes,
father.
you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you.
So we have one more question to ask you for today. And that question would be, how does genetically modified food affect fertility?
There was a study in Austria that showed that genetically modified corn had a damaging effect on the reproductive system. And I'm quoting from the study. It became apparent over a period of 2 weeks that the fertility of genetically modified corn-fed mice was seriously impaired, with fewer offspring than mice fed on non-genetically modified equivalent material. In a multi-generational trial, mice fed with genetically modified maize had fewer offspring in the third and fourth generation, and this difference was statistically significant.
Okay, so the mice that were fed genetically modified food had less offspring? Okay, that was yeah. Thank you.
Closing arguments?
Yeah, closing arguments.
Closing arguments? We'll go to June. Judge Goldstein.
As we have tried to explain to the court, GMF provide many benefits. I believe there are more benefits that come along with GMFs than there are negative effects. Some of those benefits include that crops genetically engineered to be resistant to powerful herbicides and reduce the amount of herbicides or pesticides used. An anti-freeze gene from cold water fish can also help crops resist extreme winters and therefore help the farmer not losing his or her harvest. And also by creating genetically modified plants, farmers can raise crops during long periods of drought or in areas with a high salt concentration in the soil. Also, if rice could be genetically modified to by genetically modifying rice and adding more nutrients like vitamins and minerals like iron, you can actually aid countries experiencing extreme poverty, and with just the rice, the people experiencing malnutrition can actually get all of the needed nutrients that they need with just rice, which isn't as expensive. And also, in cases where if in third world countries that don't have the necessary equipment to or third world countries that don't have the facilities to maintain vaccines can actually obtain vaccines through through modifying foods such as tomatoes to carry that vaccine, and therefore it can withstand the temperatures of those third world countries and without refrigeration or anything, and that way people from those countries can have access to those vaccines, which can prevent many diseases. Genetically modified foods, I believe, are the solution to many of the world's problems, such as malnutrition and disease, and they are the way of the future. Thank you.
Okay. Closing arguments?
Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, genetically modified food should be abolished. Many harm is done by GMS. Pregnant women are afraid to consume food because of the research that has been done. And it describes how their immune system for the babies can be susceptible to viruses. A pregnant woman or a mother of a child should not be scared to consume food. Studies have shown that it affects fertility, so women have a less chance to get pregnant. GMF doesn't help kids with disabilities or mental problems, such as autism. GMF can harm our economy as well. And in other countries that say that they need more food and GMF helps, it doesn't. It's just gonna leave you to death because of overproduction and competition throughout other farmers. In the environment, it does harm to many plants and their DNA because you kill off viruses and diseases that the plants build up to protect themselves. Also, in in many stores and markets, you see big ass big big vegetables or like very big chicken or whatever. That's not good for you.
Big breast chicken?
Like you know, like big tomatoes, red, juicy. They're there and there's like their season's not there yet, but still we have the food. That's just like when people get plastic surgery. Yeah, it looks pretty and you can add and remove stuff, but overall, like in the long run, it's gonna cause like harmful effects. Botox. After a while, your face is just like that's the same thing to like vegetables. You don't know right now. We haven't found research about vegetables that their genes have like mutated or nothing, but that is it's still possible. So overall, I think GMS should be abolished and done with. If that's not good for our health and it's not good for our environment.
So, I have a few final closing pieces for you. That was really well done overall. I think you did a good job. I think our visitors were pretty happy with it. So, hopefully you learned a few things. And as you can tell, some people were very enthusiastic and spoke from their heart. We had a couple of hostile witnesses that told the lawyers to screw off, so that was pretty nice too. So that was pretty good. But you did a really good job. The next piece of this is that next Friday you need to turn in your portfolio, which is your one-page reaction to the whole thing and your thoughts on it. The questions you were asked and your answers, and the other piece that I asked you for. You guys got to do your 5-page thing, and you're good. Good teamwork on both sides. I saw you guys helping each other out, so that was really well done.
When?
They will have a reply for you when they're done with their paper. They have to collaborate. So next week when they turn in their paper, don't tell them either. Next week when I get their paper from them, I will tell you what their response was.
Thank you.
Okay?
But
Good
that's
job, guys.
official.
Please, if you can leave your signs, we can use them tomorrow morning. So just leave them on the desk and leave the room set up. You're free to go. Have a good day. Thank you so much. Hopefully you enjoy
I want to hear that. Who won though?
Oh wait, your
I will
thing.
try to post your scores for this.
Hey,
Today.
Stand up! Kylie.
I